Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to show this short video to you all, and then we're going to get started.
Outstanding.
You're lost.
Pants.
Oh, you goddamn right. I want to be counted. Do that shit, do that shit, do it.
Or was that a threat?
Some of us could be killed.
Thank you all so much for coming to the 9B Collective Founders Panel on how to build a collective. My name is Angela Elise. I'm an actor, writer, and one of the producers for 9B Collective. Before we get started, as you guys could see, they are all powerhouses. And before they started this company, they were doing this for a long time. So I want them to introduce themselves, give a little bit about how you got started in the industry. We'll start with Phil.
Hi, everybody. I'm Phillip Boutte. I got started. Yeah, like I said, yeah. Y'all stand up. Damn it. Okay. My name is Phillip Boutte, and I'm a concept artist at large. I've been in the industry now for about 16 years as a concept artist. I started actually a roundabout way. I was an actor. So I was an actor from about 3 until like 17 or so. And the reason I stopped acting was because of some of the stuff that actually formed the collective, which was I was frustrated by the roles that I was being offered. So I didn't like how, pretty much every week would be like, Mom, I'd tell my mom I was driving to my audition. She was like, what was it today? And I was like, a gang member. And then the next day it'd be like, a drug dealer. And then the next day it would be like, a gang member, drug dealer. Like, it was just really annoying. And it was frustrating because I just wanted to say, like, I was like, okay, I know that these roles exist, but I also was looking for roles that were more like the way that I grew up. So I have both parents, they both graduated from UCLA. So I'm like, where's that family, or where's that black family, right? So I went to college, I studied illustration, and I went to Comic-Con directly after I graduated, and I saw a panel of costume designers there. And so I showed them my portfolio, and they encouraged me to join. My friend Oksana went with me as well. She showed her portfolio, and the next week she got a call, and they basically said, hey, we liked your portfolio. How would you like to go to Prague for 9 months to do Narnia 2? So that was like a big deal, right? Was production designing, so doing music videos, really trying to expand my career in that way. And then when I joined the union and joined the guild, I got hired the next month to do The Mummy 3 with Jet Li and Michelle Yeoh and Brendan Fraser. So that was my first project. And from there, I just continued to work. So that I've worked on like a lot of the different projects you saw, Black Panther, both of them. I worked at Marvel for a little like, or worked for Marvel projects for, since Captain America 1. But drawing has really really allowed me to take, different stances and work on different projects, including I've worked to 3 Madonna tours. I've done a slew of music videos, commercials, and a bunch of films, one of which I'm proud of is Inception. I worked on Inception. I worked on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So my range has been, with illustration, has really grown far. And then that's how I got here.
So I don't know how long I'm gonna be standing up because I got bad knees, but so my name is Mike Uwandi. Been in the industry for about 8-9 years now. Kind of jumps all over the place. Been in animation, live action, TV. Kind of did a little bit of everything. I knew that I wanted to be an artist for a long time, but I didn't know it was an actual job, right? So I'm here drawing all the time, playing video games, being a nerd with my 2 nerd friends right here, Brandon and Reggie, for the longest. And for the most part, I knew that this is just something I enjoyed. We used to talk about going to Japan, and we're gonna live in Japan and do all these cool things, and that just quickly died because I have a Nigerian dad, and I'm sorry, but he's like, "You are Dr. Oluya, that is all." And so I really had no choice, I felt, with my own destiny. So it's like, if you want my support, you are going to do what I say, essentially, right? And you look at these art schools and things of that nature, and you're like, that's expensive. But also, in the, I'm about to date myself, early 2000s, it was not cool to be into that stuff at all, right? So I grew up in the hood, and for the most part, you want to be hella low-key with that kind of stuff because you end up getting beaten up, robbed, or stole on. So for the most part, I kind of hid that, and I started getting into other things like sports and things of that nature because I was really into boxing and track and field and stuff like that. But also I was into music really heavy. And I was like, "Mom, I want to be an A&R." And my mom was like, "That sounds great." I now realize my mom had no idea what an A&R was. And she was like, "Word." But I recognized that I really loved breaking things down and checking out analytics and like seeing the potential in music artists and stuff like that. But I was going to school to appease my father, right? And then I realized that he wouldn't have gave a damn anyways. So eventually, my mom was always in my ear and telling me like, "I really wish you would get back into art. I really wish you would get back into art." And because she's my mom, I didn't listen. However, when Reggie and Brandon both were still continuing their path, and we were doing this since we were like 6th, 7th grade, nerding out on anime and playing video games, I remember there was this moment where Reggie was like, "I'm about to go to Japan and like see what's up." And there was this feeling that I got where I was like, I should be doing that. Why am I not doing that? And I think it's one of those moments where when you recognize you have good friends, it's so important, right? He could have seen that and been like, "You're hating on me, man." But in fact, he was like, "You should be doing that," which is like, props to you, Reggie. But then also my friend Brandon right here was like, "All right, well, I know you want to get into this stuff and you got to know something digital." And I'm like, "What the hell is digital art?" And they're showing me these things like DeviantArt and stuff like that. And he gave me my first Wacom tablet and gave me Photoshop. So I had absolutely no reason to be more like Brandon. So they pretty much got rid of all of the things that were in my path to enable me to like actually do this thing, right? And I was like practicing, and my mom and my dad are like, "You are wasting your time." But my mom actually was a big supporter in taking me to San Francisco, letting me see what was up. And I'm like, oh, being around all this artistic energy is really kind of like invigorating me. I felt like there was always something missing, and I kind of got it when I was in that environment. And so I took the plunge. We did it behind my dad's back, and then the day of, I was like, "Father, I'm leaving." And he was like, "You are leaving where?" And I was like, "I'm leaving to San Francisco." And he threw a fit, lost his mind, was like, "Are you crazy?" And I was like, "No, I'm really gonna go to San Francisco. I'm gonna pursue my dreams to be an artist." And some people know this story, but essentially he was like, "You want to draw?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to draw." And he's like, "You can draw bones. Take your ass back to medical school and focus on what you need to focus on. You are going to be professionally poor and you are wasting your time," right? After a long conversation, he actually believed me and said, "All right, you know what? If you're going to do it, make sure that you do it the best," right? So one of the things that I had in my mind is, I'm not going to just do it for me, because I recognize after having done several other things and not fully succeeding or going through with it, if you do something for yourself, it stops at a point, but if you feel like you're doing for others, then it continues at a point, right? So it was a really big thing for me to say, well, I recognize that there's a hole in art in general, and if I'm gonna do this thing, I need to make sure that I'm leaving the door open, because it seems like it's such an easy thing to actually get in there and try and open the door and make sure that you inspire other people for them to get in, and then that will change a lot of the problems that we have. So it was always a plan of mine to go in there. Went to art school, then went to Art Center, where a teacher at Academy of Art in San Francisco said, you should go to another school because you're more focused. And I was like, where should I go? And he's like, yeah, go to Art Center. And I was like, shaking my head. And then he's like, you should go. And I'm like, well, where is that? And he's like, in Southern California. And I was like, I just came from there. So he's like, all right, parents, I'm coming back home. And I think you can all imagine what that leads to. But essentially, they was like, all right, you got it, but we're not backing you. And I was like, okay. And because I have profound faith in myself as well as other beings, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna find some way to get in there. And I didn't have money, and I just kept working at a portfolio that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And eventually I got a free ride, right? So one of the few to get a free ride. Then after that, I started to try and work as hard as I could, but I had in my head, if I make it past my 6th term, I'm not doing something right. So I actually got out in my 6th term, got my first job, and eventually worked in video games and commercials, which is not cool. I was doing things like Mr. Clean, stuff like that. Like, most of y'all are too young to even know who Mr. Clean is, but essentially, I remember just always recognizing I need to take the best of a situation and like learn from it, right? Because there's certain things that I learned from working on these commercials. Like, commercials are really fast-paced, and though the art is not the most beautiful work that you're creating, you do create a really good process from that, right? And like kind of just breaking things down and seeing like, okay, well, when I do animation, the rules for animation teaches you how to edit. So I need to like really understand animation and really study that, because that's the oldest art form in entertainment that we have. And so if I learn that, I learn everything. And so pretty much applied myself, kept going, and recognizing, seeing people like Phil and others, artists, even like Anthony Jones and things of that nature, and saying like, I want to be where they are, right? But I need to figure out a way to get there. So I was very fortunate to eventually go to Comic-Con, taking a crazy chance, and I went there with no real plan except for meet everybody, talk to everybody, and show my portfolio. And eventually I got a chance to meet a group of costume designers who really looked like they were not interested in me whatsoever. Who practically looked like they were on a smoke break. And I walk over there and I'm like, hey guys, I want to get into the industry. And they're like, doing what? And I was like, art. And they was like, of course you do. And like literally, if you could imagine this scene, just imagine a bunch of people who were like against a brick wall with white t-shirts and leather jackets. It was that kind of energy, but old folk, right? So it's like even harder. And basically, one of the ladies gave me a chance, looked at my work, and said, you should have been here already. And she called Phillip Boutte. We connected, but then we, funny enough, didn't really talk for like years after that. So I was still finding my way throughout the video game industry, and eventually got into the industry working in film, doing things like working for Star Trek, Star Wars, and several Marvel projects that will sooner or later come out, and things like that. And Moon Knight was probably one of the more like bigger projects I was on, because I got to like really work on the main character and kind of embody what I felt like a Marvel character should look like. So now we're doing things with 9B, and it's been great.
What's up, people? I see I got to put a little extra bass in my voice since my partner's put a little extra in theirs.
It's not extra, it's natural. It's natural.
It's not how they talk on a regular basis. I talk to them every day. No, so I came to it, man, I've been an actor for about 34 years now. That's how I kind of found my way into the business. And producer, writer for a few years now. Going on a few, we ain't got to date myself. But as a kid, I was always artistically inclined. I loved painting. I used to, paint pictures for my mom for gifts because I couldn't buy nothing, stuff like that. I used painting to express myself, but also to explore the world and explore people, because I'm be all the way 100. I was very much introverted. I didn't like people. I'm still trying to figure it out today. Also, there are things that I wanted to be involved in. People kept telling me, that I should naturally not be involved in just because of my disposition. Also grew up in the hood, also out here being black, and people are like, this is not your lane. And I was like, but I'm trying to express how I feel about my culture, and my culture is beautiful and smart and intelligent, and I want to represent these things as normalcy, right? It's always refuted, oftentimes, especially in acting. As Phil said, we always got to represent the adverse, but we don't actually represent our truth, which is beautiful minds, art, eloquence, these kind of things as a normalcy. So through my years of acting, I tried to really push myself into places that represented that, still doing art to express myself personally. Phil actually gave me my first art lesson when I was 12 years old. We go back. But still getting frustrated, more and more frustrated through the years with the business as I rose to the ranks of going from actor to executive producer to, writing and things like that. And then Phil hit me with this idea about 9B and the value of it and what it was supposed to mean to represent artists in fair equity, but primarily the BIPOC community of artists that don't get the opportunities that they should naturally get, that they deserve. He was presenting an answer to a problem, which is what I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. Because, like Mike, I also went to Art Center. I was there for architecture and, product design and all that kind of stuff. But
at the same time, too.
You said what?
There's only one black person at Art Center at a time.
Yeah. So you was the only one at yours.
Same
I was the
age.
only one at mine. You know what I'm saying?
Same age, somehow didn't cross over, but word.
I'm like, did I see him? From across the hall, when you just walk through and you be like,
And it's definitely in slow motion.
It is in slow motion. Everything slows down. So yeah, that's really in a nutshell how I came to it. But for me, the whole point of what 9B is, how we started, why we're still here, is to not even fill a void, to crack open and create a disruption in what the industry is today. Outliers, disruptors, that's the job. And trying to crack open and create opportunities for equity for our community.
Excellent. Y'all give them a round of applause, right? So you guys already started to talk about it a little bit, but I would love to hear more about the genesis of the idea of 9B, why you all decided, you talked about it a little bit, but talk about how you met and why you decided it was the three of you. What you about to say?
You're up.
This is a great spiel. You're gonna love it.
So
It's a beautiful story. You're gonna love it.
back in 2020, we were asked by the Concept Art Association, run by Rachel Meinerding and Nicole Hendricks, to do a drink and draw. So they had a Black History Month drink and draw. They are both white women, and they were like, you guys should do this. You guys should do the drink and draw. So we jumped to it. We were really excited about it, and we kind of had the idea of putting together this an event that was basically Afrofuturism in theme, right? So we hired a black talent agency, the Jackson Agency, to get us 2 black models, male and female. And we were in a little bar called the Far Bar in downtown LA in Little Tokyo. And they do drink and draws pretty much every month, so this one was special for Black History Month. It was the most attended one that they had at the time. It was I think the bar is max 150, and it was to capacity with a line out the door. And it was the genesis of the idea, it was the first time specifically, I know that for me and a lot of the others, that we had seen that many black artists in our industry in one place. They were all in the same place. So it was animation, video games, live action, directors, producers. It was just a really good mix of people. And so as we started walking around and we're housekeeping and talking to them, they all had the same story. For the most part, all the artists of color would just be like, I work at a video game company, there's 400 employees, there's only 2 black people, and we never get to work on the same project. So we're here, but we're isolated, right? And as you talk to people, you started to realize that that was a similar thing. It was just spread out amongst different industries. So we all kind of know of each other, right? We're just not in the same place. So if you're in animation, I'm never in the same place as you when I'm working on, live action, right? So it made me look at my career. And my career, I had started in 2007. And the first time that I ever sat next to another black artist with all the films I've worked on was 2019. So that was a very long time in this particular field to be the only one. And then Mike joined, right? I talked to Aldis about it, and I was telling him kind of recognized that there was a problem. And it was one of those things that once we started to all come together, it just kind of formed itself. So by the time we got to, there was a lot, obviously 2020 was 2020ing. It was horrible. And then by the time we got to George Floyd and all the other stuff that was going on, we just knew that we had to try to open up and expand. Because at first we thought like, oh, let's do more drink and draws, right? But then you get to March and everything shut down. So that was kind of like, we were like, we don't know what we're gonna do, but it was like a blessing in disguise because it made us expand the idea and it made us see clearly what the issues were and then how to solve them. So then we decided to become actionable. So about June of 2020 is when we really like put, pen to paper and started to discuss making it an actual idea.
And as you're talking about it, like, besides the fact that 9B is the first Black-owned concept art studio, I would love for you guys to talk about 9B's approach to the work and what makes the studio different from others, because I think something that you guys are doing is so unique and special, and I want everybody to hear about it.
Sure. I back up with these knees. So for us, I know something that we like to work through, especially when it comes to our clients, is that it starts with respect for cultural representation. Don't matter what we about to draw. It's not about what we're drawing. Where are we drawing from? Who are we representing? How are we representing them? Because we want the audience to feel like the nature of our work is with respect in recognition of them, that it comes from an authentic place. So luckily, we have amassed just over 100 artists within our collective from all backgrounds, all countries, every diaspora possible. So that gives us a massive Rolodex when it comes to a cultural project. We can go and specifically speak to, hey, this is 510, boom. We have these artists, we put together a team that can speak to the nature of this project authentically. Along with that, we impress upon our clients that our artists deserve to have a voice. It's not just about plug and play and you say this and this is what we're going to give you. No. Our artists are going to be able to suggest what they need to suggest, and they're going to do so for a reason, because they know this more than we know, this culture. They know this shape language more than we know. We hire people who are brilliant at their jobs so we can do the job that we need to do. Right? We have to oversee the entire project. We have to art direct. We have to make sure that we're all pointed in the same direction, and we rely on our fantastic team to help get us there. Sometimes you might deal with a client who doesn't really rock with that, and we say, okay, we have standards within our company. We're never going to do something that is outwardly deplorative or degradative to any particular culture, right? We're going to speak to it, but we want to do so with the highest representation of respect. So it starts from the cultural consultation aspect first. And then, once we get through that, oh yeah, we're gonna explore some shapes. You know what I mean? Something that is a big part of what we do that's fun is the educational part, because most people are not aware of their options. They're not really aware of what the world is. We have to introduce them to so much, to a point where most people don't even know what it is that we do. I'm like, viz dev, visual development. What you mean you don't know what we do? This is a standard in the movie industry. Everybody relies on this. How do you not know what we do? Studios. But we have great team, great camaraderie, which is another thing. We got team members in the house, real quick to the producers, and we got one here, but you know saying, anybody who in the house who's
producers and collective members. Who else? Come on, collective people. There you go. Yes.
So I think another thing that makes the work that we do special is the special people. You cannot build a house if you don't have strong workers who understand everything that the house needs to be, right? So for us, we stand on the shoulders of the people that work with us within our collective, and we're super grateful because, you know, they help us to live out and build out the rest of our dream. If you're gonna start a company, check your partners. Make sure your partners are adequate, because you're gonna rely on these people every single day to get you to where you need to be. That's why when Phil hit me, I was like, yo, I'm confident, I know Phil. When he told me about Mike, I was like, that's that dude from Art Center. And we might have some beef because it's like Highlander, it can only be one. But I made an exception because Mike does some really dope work. But yeah, you know, for us, we come from a place where most of the clients sometimes are blind. So sometimes they don't think about the things that they need to think about, or they don't see it from our particular perspective because they are not us. They are not living in our skin, so they don't know what we care about. They don't know what matters to us. They don't know what's important on the outset of representation, because somebody's either going to benefit from that or they're going to suffer the consequences. And we need to make sure that we're protecting the artist, the art, and the audience with whatever we do so that no one is suffering any consequences.
Absolutely. Give it up for that. I just really love it. And do either of you want to add anything to that? Or I was about to say, it felt pretty good, right? Well, I'd love to hear from you guys. Aldis, you started talking on it, and you guys chime in, but being the first and being Black owned, what are some of the rewards, challenges, opportunities that you've seen throughout, now it's 3 years, right? Yeah. 3 years of doing this that you've seen, because I'd love for folks that are out there that are thinking about starting their own thing to just kind of hear, and, you know, we'll try to keep it as PG as we can. But you know what I mean? I want to hear about the rewards, the challenges, the beautiful aspects of starting a collective and what your favorite parts about it are.
Who want to start on the challenges?
I'll start on the challenge.
Go ahead. Yes, get it, Mike. Get him.
Hopefully y'all not expecting me to stand up anymore. This is one of those moments where when you ask, like, what superpower do you wish you had? It would definitely be Megan Thee Stallion's knees. And I think that me and Aldis are going through the same pain. Phil seems to be all right. I think one of the initial challenges that we kind of even sometimes still go through is the understanding that, or more so the arrogance of the client sometimes, right? Especially when it comes to like dealing with cultural concepts. It's totally okay to not know everything, but you want to make sure that you put people in position who know better, right? That's kind of that's the real point of being a leader of any kind of situation. We've dealt with certain clients who tell us how to be Black, essentially, right? Which is like insane. And some of the horror stories that you guys can imagine, we've probably gone through that and further. But I would say like some of the rewards actually is seeing people get that opportunity, seeing that light bulb moment. That's like one of the best moments, at least for ourselves when it comes to mentoring. We see a lot of people have those light bulb moments where they've never gotten an opportunity and they're like, yeah, I've never had a job before. And you look at their Instagrams or their Facebooks and you're like, how have you never had a job before? But before you finish that sentence, you say, I know how you never had a job before. And so when you see them really flourish and the client's so impressed and they're like, dude, this is dope. Like, where'd you find these people? And we get to say they've literally applied to you multiple times. You've never seen their portfolio because you never looked, right? You never gave them a chance because they didn't have this name on their resume. And now you're literally having them work for you and like save your project, right? We've dealt with that so many times. I think also recognizing that when you work as an employee, sometimes your employer doesn't see you, right? They don't understand. And we've had certain instances where like we allowed a client to tell the artist an issue and the artist like almost looks like stone-faced, like what the hell is going on? What is he talking about? But because we've been there before, we recognize exactly what's happening with that artist. And we're like, oh, look, I understand that you're going through this and going through that, and that's probably too much information. Focus on this and that and that. And then you see them deliver, and you see them get better week after week after week. When you put certain teams together and say one of the things that we do is balance our teams quite often. So we'll have like a senior who's there, and then we have like a junior. Or when I say junior, I don't necessarily mean in skill, but it's more so like experience. And you see how when that junior starts to understand the pipeline, they start getting better each week consistently. And it kind of it works for both parties. The senior, one of the things that happens when you're a senior is you get really efficient, which is dope, and you get hella fast, but you can kind of lose some of the spice of your ideas because you recognize like this thing works all the time, so I'm gonna just keep doing this thing. And that can happen in school, can also happen in work. We kind of lose a little bit of your creative mojo. And people who are less inclined or less experienced tend to have that creativity. But then for the young artists, they get to see efficiency. They get to see a process. They get to aspire to a certain quality level that's required when it comes to these artists and these tasks or clients. And so it kind of works for both ends, and we get to see that growth project after project. And some of them have been on a project where they're like just starting a project, and they get so good by the end of a project that we're like, okay, you know what? I think you have the skill to be an art director. And the best part is them not really having faith in themselves, but us having faith in them, so then they believe in us, and then they take on that role, and then they kill it, right? So it's one of those things that has happened on quite a few projects where someone just doesn't have that faith because they never gotten that chance. And we really feel good about being in a situation that we're changing what was done to us within our own respective careers, where people weren't giving us that chance, right? And we had to fight tooth and nail for these opportunities. And we recognize that when you allow people to get these opportunities in a really good way, let's just be honest, in a helping hand, like giving them a helping hand, what were they most likely to do? They're also willing to give a helping hand. But if you get someone who got negativity the whole way through, they tend to get bitter, right? And then they feel like they need to hold on to that position that they're in, and they are way less likely to share. So it's kind of shifting the industry as a whole, because it starts from the bottom up. It doesn't start from the top down.
Yeah. I think one of the challenges of being the first, but also trying to kind of carve the path, is making sure that you're leaving, opening for people to come behind you too, to make sure that everyone knows that it's possible, right? So that's been a rewarding part, but it's also been hard because we literally are trying to create something that hasn't been done, right? Or at least showing people why it's necessary. And I think the hardest part about it has just been getting people to listen and take pause and to actually really see that there's an issue, and then watching people struggle with diversity. Like they're just like, I don't know how to do this. Like, it's just like, it's not hard, right? It's like, so they'll be like, where did you find all these people? And I'm just like always sarcastic, like, the aisles of Walmart, like online, like it's like, you can just go and look, right? It's not hard to find people, especially if you're looking for talented people, and especially if you're looking to give an opportunity. It's only hard to find people when you're looking for the same people or the same pool of people, or you're trying to maintain a sense of control, and you're not allowing people to tell their own story. So that's kind of been something that we try to challenge, the studios, or to allow a voice, to allow those people to have a voice to tell their story, and to be empowered to do so, and not just to be in kind of this position, which the term I hate is like a diversity hire. It's like you're not guessing at it. So it shouldn't be like you're just hiring someone just because they are what they are, right? So it's not like you're saying like, oh, just go grab some random person off the street and give them this job. It's like there are plenty of people here that are professional and qualified that never get the opportunity. So please just give them the opportunity. So we kind of exist in this weird, middle place where it's been more about solving the problem than anything else. There's a problem here, we're looking and we're trying to attack it, and we're attacking it on all ends, which means it is our responsibility when we are in those rooms to be the person that's brave enough to say something, right? And it is our responsibility to also understand that the collective of our skills, especially inspiring artists of color, is not just when they start to work. It's well before. So it's going and talking to elementary school kids. It's going and talking to their parents. It's making sure that the parents know how to support a young artist as opposed to telling them to draw bones, right? Like, it's making sure that they're like, oh, this is an actual career, or telling them how much a concept artist can make, or what the capabilities are, or giving them the tools necessary to be able to do that, so that they can have a long career and that they can compete against people that have been drawing or have been supported in that way from a young age. Because it does get very difficult, even just seeing by the time you get to college, if you haven't been drawing, you're up against people. It could be really intimidating, right? So I would remember being in my school, I went to Cal State Long Beach, go Beach, and I would be there, and then there'd be maybe another black student that would come in, but by like maybe a year or a semester, so they would drop out because it was super intimidating because they didn't have the training, right? So that's another thing that we've been trying to provide. But I think it's one of those things, all of those things are a conglomeration of what we try to do here at the collective, and we try to make sure that that's our main focus, because there are plenty of opportunities and companies that kind of cater to everyone. We try to make sure that we're catering to making sure that BIPOC voices are heard.
I think I've been around long enough to see there's a pattern when it comes to diversity hires as well, and a danger on both ends. There's been a lot of companies who hire people and say like, well, we need this person of another background to work on this project, but they kind of set them up to fail. And so that alone is one of the big things that we really focus on here too, is like making sure that when we hire people, we're putting them in their best light to succeed, right? Because you can kill an artist way faster by lowering their self-esteem before they get started, killing their momentum, than you can just like putting the right person in place. And a lot of times they are really blind to some of these artists and their skill sets and what they actually bring to the table. You can look at a portfolio even and see where someone really is passionate about based on the level of passion within their work. I've seen a project where they brought in a black character, and they were like, we need to hire a black woman for this project. And I literally saw the whole process by them hiring just a black woman. Not even a black woman who does characters, but they had her working on characters. And then a few weeks later, they literally nixed her, and they were like, all right, cool, we got that out the way. And I was like, God damn, like, you just didn't even care, right? So it's one of those things where I didn't really care about the project as much as I cared about that artist who most likely lost their way after dealing with something like that and feeling like she wasn't enough, right? And I've seen that happen on a few occasions. And so one of the big things is like, there's certain artists who may not know what their specialty is, but it's our responsibility to also help them recognize it by us seeing it ourselves.
The pressure is higher too, because what ends up happening, which sucks in that situation, is not only was that artist set up to fail and used to kind of justify whatever decisions they were making, so they were used visually, right? Like, because they were there, now they feel like, okay, we're justified in doing this, but it also closes the door to where they're just like, see, we knew this wasn't gonna work, and then they go back to hiring whoever they were gonna hire. So it's like really difficult to kind of be in that lane where you're carving the path, because you know that if you kind of mess up, then like all the other like people of color suffer. And I think that that's a really hard thing to kind of feel like it's the opportunities aren't open, or to feel like all that pressure is there. You also get jobs specifically where like we get the craziest things. We'll get something like I'm trying to think of a really good example of something that'll happen. Oh, no, here's one. Here's one that we haven't actually told, which was there was a job that reached out to us, and they were just like, we have this beautiful, diverse world, and we have these characters, and they were showing us the whole thing. And then it was kind of the way it was worded, I had to like look, and I think we all turned our cameras off and we were texting each other, like, did you hear what? And I was like, what thought? And it was basically, they had designed the world, and they had character designers on it. So they didn't want us to do any of the main characters. They wanted us to draw diverse characters in the background.
Oh, I know which.
Sorry.
Yeah. So they were just like, so it's like, you're hiring us just to draw all of the minority characters that aren't real characters, just the NPC characters or the characters that are in the background. And I was just like, that was just a weird way of wording that, but we were like, no, we'll pass, you know? It's that type of deal. And so you have to kind of teach people to say, what would have been good is that your, you know, whatever the characters were, if you would have hired us to actually help to design those and have a voice of equity and say in this storytelling, right?
And you guys started to talk about this too. So to help artists, I would love you all to talk about what makes a great collective member, what you all want to see in portfolios. We've gotten it at the booth, and like I said, I'm an actor, writer. I don't do visual art. Y'all are amazing, all the visual artists, because that is not for me. Stick figures all the way. But I would love for you all to talk about that, because some people have said, is it my portfolio? Is it my experience? Is it both? Please talk about the things that you would like to see and kind of how we started to bring in certain collective members.
I think overall, the primary initiative is clear DNA. Like, what is your identity? Can I look at the page and see you fully in that? Can you introduce me to a new perspective, a new angle? maybe a new collective color scheme that maybe I hadn't put together before that kind of works, you know what I'm saying? But what is it that makes you you? And I'm talking about, let's take away technical skill, right? We can get there. But I want to see how your mind thinks based in your passion. What are you passionate about pushing? What are you passionate about contributing to the world of art through what you do and through how you do it? Every skill and talent can be matured and nurtured and grown. The potential can be extramentally sort of enhanced through your experience, but the nucleus of it starts with where your eye is at. How do you see the world and how do you put that on the page? A mistake I often made, back in the day, I was like in fine painting, and I would study other people's work, and I'm trying to get it all perfect. I was too afraid to mess up, and I never found myself in that. And I was collaborating with another artist who encouraged me to be messy, because in fine painting, there are no straight lines. There is nothing that is hard line, you know what I'm saying? The life is found to a degree in the mess, right? Your essence is found in that. That is something that you will always be able to bring that no one else can. So your potential lies in the heart of your nature, and you need to really bring that out with whatever you do and however you do it. Your journey will excel at different rates based on different factors. You know, how do you hustle? You know, how hungry are you? Look, I draw every day almost. I think we all kind of do, basically. But with that, it's not about drawing to draw, it's drawing to discover. If I'm sitting there drawing something for 2-3 hours, it's not because I'm just trying to get a specific picture right. I'm searching for the shape in it. I was on the plane over here this morning drawing that whole time, that 5 almost 6 hour ride, looking for a shape that I had not seen yet, and I will not finish that until I find what that shape is. But I think that in terms of the collective members that we have, the thing that we always keyed in on was their distinctive style. We saw a passion for growth. We saw leadership skills in that they liked working with a team, because that's really how you grow and learn the most about yourself, is through how you deal with other people. And communication, that's a huge thing. Being able to be nimble and ample and being able to say, look, all right, we're gonna take this project, we need to shift over here, we need to make some alterations, boom, boom, boom. And how do you take that in the mix of your personal self, your personal feelings, where is your ego at? You know, do you take things with the mindset of this is going to teach me to learn, or do you take it with a sense of this is going to hold me back? It's up to you how you feel, but everything can be a lesson, everything can be your best teacher. In our collective, we aim to be stewards and teachers to rear up the next greatest, best generation. So everything we do, especially when it comes to constructive criticism, is in the interest of somebody moving forward, because we believe that much in every single one of our artists, but also our artists teach us on a regular basis, and our minds are open. So as much as we're looking for students, we're looking for teachers. Fellas?
Damn, that was nice. I like that.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna drop my album out, you know what I'm saying? It's coming out top of next week, you know what I'm saying? You know.
There's a few bars in there. I think one of the things that I look for specifically is not just the technical skill, but I'm not gonna lie, I definitely look at technical skill. Let's keep it real. Yeah. But I also think that it's important for that person to like kind of really showcase their work ethic. And by that, I mean, there are certain people, you can tell them exactly what needs to be done, and then they won't do it, and they come to you about a year later with the same problem, right? I think that a real method that even I used when I was a student was I would make sure I would ask someone specifically about what I wanted to learn from that person, and I wouldn't go to anybody else until I fixed that thing. So then I get information as fast as I can, as easily as I can, and I keep on building. because there's nothing worse than using that bridge the same time. Crossing that path the same time, getting the same information, right? So I think like one of those things when it comes to making sure that you take advantage of the ability to communicate with veterans within the industry is super important, but also making sure that you have great communication, have a really cool personality, right? And by personality doesn't mean that you have to be an extrovert. I'm an introvert. These two are definitely extroverts. He's kind of like something else. But like, but it's like really important to like recognize like just being a cool person really gets you far, right? Because there's a point where if someone wants to help you and then you make them feel bad for helping you, they have a really bad feeling from helping you, thus they won't help you again, right? And so when it comes to this kind of thing, within this industry, there are very few people who will give you that kind of chance. But we're here pretty open with that, and we want to see people grow for the most part. So we really want to make sure that a lot of the artists who we work with are just cool people and can take advice and grow. You have to want it more than we want to give it, essentially, because otherwise you're kind of wasting space, right? Wasting time. And hard work isn't really something you can teach for the most part. So whereas technical abilities, you can always learn that. But hard work, that's usually pretty inherent for most of us. So those are a few of the things that we look for.
Real quick though, Mike, to your point about wasting time, that's something that people don't necessarily see in the beginning, but you see later at the end of your journey, wasting your own time. I can't afford to waste my own time, which means I hold myself accountable for wasting anybody else's time. But I implore to anybody, value yourself enough and your dreams enough and what you want to do enough that you never allow yourself to waste your own time.
Absolutely.
So now we're going to open it up for questions because we want to be able to give advice to students and anyone in here that has questions for the guys. You just want to go to the podium there, come up to the podium there just so we can hear you. You can go ahead and form a line. And they will kind of let me know how much time we have left on it. But let's
Don't be
get
shy.
started. Yeah, don't be shy.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, testing, 1, 2.
And if you'll
Hey,
tell
guys.
us your name too.
My
that'd be
name is
great.
Richie Jimenez. Nice to meet you guys. I drove all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. I don't know if you guys from there. It's getting a little cooler now, so it's great. I came here with my partner, Leo Beltran. He's sitting up front right here. And, you know, we're educators. We also have a studio out there called RJ Animation. And we do a lot of, you know, we deal with a lot of companies down there. And I'm also an instructor at a local university. I teach animation. This year is marking my 10th year as an instructor.
Nice.
And a lot of the things, thank you. A lot of the things that you were saying, I agree. You know, hard work, keeping organizing, you know, kind of just keeping at it is kind of like basically the things I tell my students. At the moment right now, I'm starting our own collective. Down there, we're trying to build a group of animators, artists, illustrators, concept artists with Leo. And one of my questions is that, what do you have any advice for us out there that we're trying to bring in the, you know, animation community there, not just for those that could afford it, but also those that are unfortunate that they don't have the opportunities that are there. We're working a lot with the urban areas with Latino kids, you know, different backgrounds, and we're just trying to bring these, even with kids with special needs, we're trying to get them involved with their dreams. And then the second question is there also opportunities to work with you guys to kind of be as, you know, advisors or some way that we can kind of collaborate?
For the second question, let's connect after, for sure. And then for the first question, it would be, I think the most important part about the collective is the community itself, right? So what you're doing is great. You need to build the community which you want to see, right? So if it doesn't exist, with everything, I think one of the most empowering things has been is that if you set your mind to something, you start to realize that whoever you look up to, right, that person started somewhere, or something went off in their brain and they're like, I can do this thing. So all you have to do is realize you can do that thing. Like, you know, one day I was watching something and I was like, it was like rich people or about rich people. And I was like, I could be a rich people. You know what I mean? Like, like instead of just thinking it's rich people, it's outside yourself, right? You could be that, right? So if you want to start the collective, start it, but make sure that you have a good base where you are actually supporting the community and bring them in and let them know that there's a place for them to be, because that's the most important part, is like a hub, of like a catch-all, right?
Yeah.
So inspiring them to know that. But let's talk after for your second
Okay,
question.
perfect.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Hey y'all, my name is Jonah. Nice to meet you. I have a quick question about your experience with like remote work over 2020. I'd love to know like how that might have changed like the situation and how you might see it grow into a more of like a global collective. You know what I mean? Is like, does location restrict your ability to work together? You know?
Location for us has actually not been an issue. We've been able to work remotely. And like I said, most of our artists in our collective are all over the place. And the only thing that location would really determine or affect really our deadlines when it comes to time zones, things like that. But for us, we've been actually very lucky in being able to schedule out and make it work with everybody, wherever they at. But yeah, as far as build out, I mean, we definitely have plans and initiatives for build out. We have milestone goals, things that we've already initiated and started acting upon. So there is very much a 5, a 10, a 15, a 20-year plan. And to my man, was it Richie, about who's starting his own collective? Definitely strategy, brother. The ideas are nothing without implementation of strategy. So build out that plan. But for us, we definitely have growth goals, which we're actually achieving as we see. I would tell you, but I can't, let all the cookies out the bag. But for any difficulty or hardship like having to work remote, everything can actually work in your favor depending on how you situate yourself in your business and how you use it. So if there's a hardship, there's always going to be something, a roadblock, but figure out how to make it work in your favor. And unfortunately, we see too much of each other on Zoom. I've actually met a good bit of my team today for the first time in person because I live in New York. And other than that, I'm a gypsy all over the world. But yeah, Zoom, we have tools at our disposal, and we use them to the max to maximize our output.
Yeah.
Respect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sammy. I think I met some of you before. I guess my question is, I kind of talked about this with Phil yesterday, but like, basically like my story, being a black artist, I wasn't really like encouraged to be an artist until like, and I wasn't really serious about it until I got to college. Somebody put it into my head when I was a kid, but like most people in my environment were just like, that's not a real job. Like, what are you talking about? Don't be an artist, be an engineer. Don't want to do that for the rest of my life. So I'm trying to get into more art stuff. And I kind of want to go into like more like sci-fi, fantasy, Afrofuturistic stuff. And I guess like my question is like when you're talking to people and also like showing your work towards like younger children and stuff like that, how do you show that like being black isn't like a monolithic like experience? Like we have more experiences, and like try to like expand people's minds about that, because that seems to be a challenge for a lot of people today.
Hold on 1 second. For clarity, are you asking about the difficulties of getting in the game as an artist, but also dealing with the difficulties of being black?
Yeah, that, and then also like how do you like talk to like younger people and like make them like help them like believe like, hey, you can like do this too. You don't have to be like this type of way, but you can do like all types of things.
So I'm gonna hit you with the difficulties of being black. I think I want to cover that first, and we jump in. So there's never a time in your career where you're not going to be hit with somebody's ignorance, or rather somebody's cultural negligence. That's what we deal with 24/7. The thing that you have to do is understand how to stand in your power at all times. It would behoove you to understand how the opposition thinks. You can't always, you're not always going to be afforded that opportunity, but even with that, make sure that you stand in your power. You don't give up your power. That means, somebody says something off the cuff that is not okay. You can choose to respond to it negatively. You can choose to respond to it positively or moderately, or not respond at all. We have dealt with plenty of situations, one in particular where somebody was on a Zoom with us and we were dealing with a client and, and the client said something that was defamatory to the black community. And they thought it was okay. The whole Zoom is black. And they thought it was okay.
Cameras went off. Text messages were sent.
So now here's the thing. The job that we have to do is stressful mentally because you have to do backflips to educate and teach, and it's an opportunity to teach somebody because they will never understand or know what they have said because they will never go through it. It's not designed against them. It's not something they deal with on a regular basis. They can't see it. So when they say it to us and we make them aware in this room, still trying to be professional, they still may not get it. We have a choice, and the choice is, you know what? I don't think this is a good fit. We stand in our power to choose to step away because we want to work with people. I don't care where you come from, what color you are, that don't matter to none of us. What matters is where's your respect and understanding of what it is you're doing, who you want to represent. If you don't have that and your values don't align with ours, from a professional standpoint, it's not in our best interest to work together. Same thing as an artist. For me as an actor growing up and you're trying to get this job and, ooh, these people are saying all these crazy things to me. I've had people say a lot of crazy things to me. And you get to a point where you just say, no, I'm not gonna do that. And it's gonna cost you minimally. But I'd rather pay the cost in the short term up front today so I can have long-term satisfaction on the back end versus selling my soul for a number of years and only having minimal satisfaction on the, whoever knows if it ever comes. Stand in your power, establish healthy boundaries, enforce those healthy boundaries, and make sure you understand if you say no to an opportunity because you're choosing yourself, you've made the right decision.
So I want to actually tap on something else that you said within that question. I realized that you asked the question basically, as a black artist, like how do you kind of find your way throughout the industry? One of the big things I've learned over time is like whatever your identity is and whoever you are, you can maximize that. I remember at one point, very, very early, being like, why does this, me being black seems to get in my way, right? But it's kind of like judo. And for anyone who knows what judo is essentially you could be big or small, but you're using someone else's momentum to get the job done, to throw them to the ground, right? And you being small can actually work in your benefit, and you being big obviously works in your benefit. And so being black, one of the things I realize is I get to surprise people, right? Most of the time they're not expecting me to be as good as I am, right? So once you do showcase that, they're like, oh, you have a surprise factor, which helps a lot, right? Another thing is you have an identity and a voice that's not oftentimes used. So why not lean into that? One of the things, I'm Nigerian. I'm looking around and I remember seeing like a lot of art and I'm like, let me type in black fantasy art. And I wasn't finding anything. And I'm like, damn, for real? Like, the internet's been around for a cool minute. Art's been around for a cool minute. No one drew a black person with a shield, right? Like, that was a trip. So, it's crazy. So I was like, all right, well, I like both. I like black people and I like art. So, and I like fantasy. So using that and saying, well, I'm gonna lean into it then. And I feel like I created some of the work that I love the most that really is an embodiment of who I am based on that, right? And you said that you have an engineering background, right?
Kind of, yeah. I did a little bit of engineering, a little bit of computer science for a couple of years.
Right, that's an identity. That's something that you're interested in, you're passionate about possibly. and you like sci-fi, you mix those two and you have a different voice from everyone else in the room, right? So it's like, I think a lot of times within the industry, we're oftentimes feeling the need to funnel our voices to fit into a respective slot. But at the end of the day, really, as an artist, it's your opinion that matters, right? And your opinion, your art is just an embodiment of your opinion. And that's where your value is as well. So lean into it and don't be afraid of it. And it's something that I had to tell myself too, like very early on and for a long ass time, because it's so normal and expected within us to crunch ourselves down and dim our own light.
Yeah.
But you don't have to step in anyone else's shadow. You can be that light for yourself, and then you can inspire other people to also be that as well.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, unfortunately, we are out of time because it's 4:30, but for the 3 people that still have questions, we definitely will meet you outside and at our booth.
Yep.
We're happy to answer those questions for you because we don't want you to not get them answered. So please meet us. Our booth is booth 1307, so we're right in the corner there. We want to do a couple special shout outs. Thank you to our collective and everything that you all do for coming here this weekend. We wouldn't be 9B without you, so thank you so much. As well as, you want to give a shout out?
I think it's important when you talk about support and community, right? It's about also lifting as you rise, right? So bringing people up together. 9B would not be where it is without an opportunity provided to us to work on the film Blue Beetle. And we have our director, Angel Manuel Soto, right here. And we definitely have to give him a shout out because he's been so gracious and so nice to us. He's an introvert, so he's gonna hate this, but we wanna say thank you so much to him because we would not be here without him.
Yeah, and please, guys, thank you, Ano. And please follow us on Instagram at 9B Collective. You can also learn more about us at www.9bcollective.com. So thank you so much for your time.
We'll also give a t-shirt to anyone that can get pictures of Mike with ashy elbows.
Hey,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
And that y'all definitely not getting, because I'm the most moisturized dude you've ever seen.